Stanley Cup Final, Game 4, Thursday night.
Will the Oilers unravel yet again, or can they bounce back?
And what about Florida? Are they going to take that commanding 3-1 series lead, or will they allow Edmonton right back in this thing?
We'll answer those questions and so much more on this Wednesday night Stanley Cup Final Game 4 preview edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before, only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hello there, hockey fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. I'm Cam Stewart, a sad Boston Bruins fan on the third coast who is wearing a Penguins jersey today. There's a very special reason for that because now I toss it over to the birthday boy.
What a birthday present. I don't need gifts. I just need to see Cam Stewart wearing the rightful and the correct black and yellow.
We got some more back here.
That's the wrong one in the back. It's a beautiful jersey. Of course, I'm Tyler Feldman, a lifelong Penguins fan, born and raised in Pittsburgh, currently loving life in Austin, Texas. Cam, Mario Lemieux, what a jersey. Old time, C on the chest, that old emblem, love it. Reminiscent of me going to games back in the day inside the Igloo before it became PPG Paints Arena, Consol Energy Center. And whatever it's named now. So
do you think there would have been like North Stars fans if there was YouTube in 1991, like talking about Mario Lemieux not being anything in the comment section? Like, we could take him. He's nothing.
Here's a hot take. And
he's
maybe it's not a hot take, but if this technology, these platforms were around back when Lemieux was doing his thing, there would be less of a debate about Gretzky being the great one in and around Pittsburgh. And of course there's bias, but no one better than what Mario Lemieux was able to do on the ice from a pure skill, size, physicality, all around player. Mario Lemieux, had he not dealt with so much injury and cancer and missing all those games, we could be looking at the jersey you're wearing as the great one rather than Wayne Gretzky.
Could, man. And this is a topic for another day that we should do in the summer, but I think hockey is the best GOAT debate of any sport, really. Like, you've got 3 or 4 guys right at the top who can make great cases, and possibly 2 Penguins, just saying. But
and look, that's not to not validate Wayne Gretzky as the great one. I'm just saying that a lot of times Lemieux gets overlooked because of all the games he missed, because his numbers didn't reach the height of where Gretzky's were.
And a guy who might get overlooked if he doesn't come away with the Stanley Cup and starts 0 for 2 is Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. They certainly looked like they were on that path after what happened in Game 3, but it's a 2-1 series lead, and now we get the all-crucial Game 4, Tyler, which we are here to preview. It's either 3-1 or it's 2-2. It's typically ends up being the best game in a series when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs because of what's on the line. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of this, how about this for your stats? A team with a 3-1 series lead at any time in any Stanley Cup final wins it 90% of the time. In any playoff series wins it 90% of the time. Only one team ever has come back from 3-1 in a Stanley Cup final, and that was well before D-Day, okay? This was back in 1942 that happened, and that was the Toronto Maple Leafs not choking, going the other way. They were the only ones to come back from a 3-0 series deficit. So once it goes from 2-1 to 3-1, nobody in Stanley Cup final history has ever come back from that. That makes this the crucial game. But Tyler, we were like flabbergasted at what Edmonton put out in that Game 3. Before we talk about the Panthers side of things, how do the Oilers get back in this series? What do the Oilers need to do in Game 4?
Well, after practice Tuesday, Leon Draisaitl said to the media, "I'm not going crazy." That's part of their DNA, talking about the Florida Panthers, that physicality.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a UFC fight. It's not a big deal. Talking about how that Game 3 ended a couple nights ago. Okay, maybe it's not a big deal. I do see the UFC comparison. I do see that. If you watch the game, it got out of hand.
Hockey, yeah.
Paul Maurice said on the other side, the game got to a point where it was probably not going any better and wasn't going anywhere. So he understood why the game went that way. But Paul Maurice said it's time to move on. Yes, you've got to look ahead, regardless of if you're Florida up 2-1 or if you're the Oilers trailing 2-1 in this series. You've got to look ahead to game 4. That has to be your focus. That has to be your focus. Knobloch on the other side said, some of our guys got distracted. We have to play between the whistle. And Cam, that's the key. The Edmonton Oilers have to get back to what they excel at on the ice. And that's the skill play. That's the talent. We have to see McDavid. We have to see Draisaitl. And just to rub some people wrong, McJesus, as a lot of our commenters have said and be frustrated with all at the same time. But we have to see those two guys. I hate to say it because it's the ultimate team sport, but for Edmonton to win game 4, we have to see more production out of their top two, that two-headed monster of McDavid and Draisaitl, because they were -3 in game 3. And then in addition to those two, we have to see more production out of lines 3 and 4, as well as the guys surrounding McDavid and Draisaitl on those top two lines.
And so we broke down game 3 and obviously the 11 power plays that the Panthers had in this game. By the way, if it is going to be a UFC fight, the Panthers are going to win this series and they might wrap it up pretty quick. If that's what Leon wants, then I don't know if that's the best option for the Edmonton Oilers. And I know the Oilers had more penalty minutes and more hits in the last game, but I mean, they lost their head. Nobody is arguing that, right? They lost their head in that game. And in terms of the mental battle, 2 full days of rest afterwards, the Panthers have that where they want them, and they love playing after some rest. I mean, the Panthers, man, they will wear themselves out if they know they have 2 full days of rest and then come out and do the same thing in the next game. We talked about their defensive prowess and how well they played against McDavid and Draisaitl in game 3, and therefore really shut down the entire Oilers team. Do you buy into that the 2 extra days of rest actually favors a team like Florida that's willing to play more physical, would play on a smaller rink if they could?
It favors both teams. The more rest you have, the stronger your legs are going to be. I mean, these are teams where you're putting your top guys out on the ice probably a little bit more than what you do during the regular season. So heavier ice time for the top guys. You need the rest. I don't see any favoritism in having the multiple days off. Both teams should be taking advantage. It doesn't give any team one clear-cut advantage going into game 4. I don't buy that at all.
And so let's look at it from the Panther side of things. You talked about how Edmonton can get back in this. We saw pretty much the blueprint of exactly how Florida wants to play in game 3. That's basically what we saw all of the Eastern Conference Finals against Carolina. Blowout victories, very physical, other team kind of trying to do too much. How do the Panthers keep with the status quo and make this a 3-1 series lead?
Keep doing what you're doing. Pretty simple.
Fair enough.
But you need to carry what you did in game 3, shutting down Draisaitl, shutting down McDavid, adjusting, because you'd like to think the Oilers make some serious adjustments going into game 4, but being able to adjust to what Edmonton changes and maintaining what you did in game 3, because you also got the job done in game 2 in double overtime. So carrying that momentum, can you make it 3 straight against a really talented team like Edmonton? Keep the physical play, keep the forecheck aggressive, keep the back check as hot as can be, and maintaining the stars on Edmonton. Do all of that, and then you trust your netminder, Sergei Bobrovsky. If he keeps playing well between the pipes, that's the recipe. We've seen it already, Cam. They really don't have to change all that much. It's more of adjusting to what Edmonton changes here in game 4.
Yeah, we know it's got to be better for Draisaitl in order for the Oilers to win. We'll see if those two guys can carry them the entire way, because the depth has been there for Florida, which leads us to some of the biggest surprises we have seen in this Stanley Cup Final. Not all the stars have come out to play, and some of the guys you've never heard of have been stealing the show here in this series. We'll give you the biggest surprises of the Cup Final coming up next on Locked On NHL Game Night. But first, If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, I recommend cracking into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you more than 10% of your daily value right there. Plus, they're packed with fiber and those better for you unsaturated fats that help you keep you feeling fuller for longer. Personally, on this show, we're a big no-shells show, myself and Tyler. A perfect grab-and-go snack for those busy days and keeping you up through the Stanley Cup final nights. You know, having the snack at my desk, road trip, quick protein boost before hopping on the show. That's my go-to. But I can really do the shells variety too. If you love cracking open every shell, love the process of it, feeling like you're at a baseball game, that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite too. Complete protein, providing all 9 essential amino acids, whether you're running between meetings, dropping off the kids, or getting ready for the Stanley Cup final. Wonderful Pistachios is the snack that works as hard as you do. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Back here on Locked On NHL Game Night, alongside Tyler Feldman, I'm Cam Stewart, reminding you, get involved in the comment section. Wish Tyler a happy birthday.
Yeah, come on. Wish me a happy birthday.
We'd love to see that. We also want to hear who your biggest surprises are, good and bad, because we'll go over good and bad in the Stanley Cup final. Like, subscribe, find us on YouTube, of course, and wherever you find your podcasts as well. But Tyler, it has been an extremely entertaining first 2 games of the series. Game 3, entertaining for a different way in a blowout victory. And some of the guys we expected to show up have not shown up. We talked about the big storylines before the final, the top 5 players before the final. And yet it's some other guys. It's been Brad Marchand. It's been Sam Bennett. But maybe the biggest positive surprise of this entire series has been Nate Schmidt. Where did Nate Schmidt come from? He got an assist taken away from him somehow between games 3 and 4, but he still is tied for the series lead in points for the Panthers with 4. Only Connor McDavid has more points than Nate Schmidt. Tyler, where did this guy come from?
Holy Schmidt.
Let that one breathe for a second. Let that one marinate over the audience.
It's too easy.
It's pretty good.
It's too easy. Come on.
It's like blowing out the candles, man. Easy.
What Nate Schmidt is doing is one of the biggest reasons why you can't beat hockey and you really can't beat the Stanley Cup playoffs, because you have guys emerge that have done a great job all season, but now under the bright lights, you get into a rhythm. And we're seeing that from Nate Schmidt, where he's not only producing offensively, he's getting involved, helping out big time on the man advantage and taking advantage of what he brings to the table. He has been so much fun to watch and showcases Florida's depth, because Florida's depth is a big reason why they're up 2-1 right now in this series. It's been fun to watch him play. Certainly wasn't expecting a guy like him to be one of the guys so far through 3 games, but that's why you love the Stanley Cup final. That's why you love playoff hockey, for moments like these where you allow guys to match the moment and even elevate above the moment.
Typically, you can't have the new guy come in and steal the show. But that's exactly what Nate Schmidt's done. The guy turns 34 next month. A former expansion draft guy, was left unprotected. The only other time he played in the final was with Vegas when they made it in year 1, 2018. He is playing, Tyler, on a 1-year, $800,000 deal right now and has 4 assists in the Stanley Cup final.
Money.
What a story.
Money.
He has been. One more contract for him. He's
going to get paid.
You can get a little nice 2-3 year deal out of that.
Yes.
For a guy who's just been bouncing around, journeyman, former Minnesota Golden Gopher. A guy on the other side of this, surprising in the other direction for the Florida Panthers, has been Sasha Barkov. And I know we're going to get some Panthers fans jumping down our throat, because let me say this, and I know you'll agree, Tyler. Sasha Barkov's been still Sasha Barkov defensively. And he has been a huge part of that spine down the middle for the Panthers, has done a great job for the most part on the McDavids and the Draisaitls of this Oilers team. But what makes Sasha Barkov so great and one of the elite players in this league is he does it at both ends. Going into this, he had 17 points in 16 games going into the final. He has a goose egg so far in the Stanley Cup Final. 0 points, a -4 rating, which, again, plus minus can be a little deceptive because I think Barkov has played well in the defensive end. So Paul Maurice joked after game 3 when asked about the 0 points for Barkov. He said, "We're trading him." It's part of the Paul Maurice comedy special on the press conferences. But here the Panthers sit at a 2-1 series lead without a point from Sasha Barkov yet. Is that something that needs to get corrected for them to win their second straight Stanley Cup?
If I'm Florida, I'm not too concerned because I still have seen great hockey out of Barkov in these first 3 games. Sometimes you just don't get the production on the stat sheet, and that's okay. His physicality has led to some great goals for the Panthers.
Yeah, we talked about that one in game 3. He doesn't get an assist for, but he forces a turnover deep in the zone and kind of pushes the puck along. I guess doesn't get an assist for that. But yes, it's a good point.
Exactly. So sometimes in hockey, and this would happen to me when I played growing up.
I'm sure.
You're playing great. You're doing everything right. You're just not seeing the points. But there's 5 guys on the ice typically. So, and there's only 2 guys who can get assists and 1 guy who can score. But if you're doing your job correctly, the points will come. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see Barkov bounce back in a big way in game 4. And if I'm the Oilers, I'm a little scared that Barkov hasn't been producing offensively, because when he starts to produce offensively, which very well could happen in game 4, then that could be what tilts Florida's favor even closer to winning their second straight Stanley Cup. So Maurice joking that they're trading him, hilarious. I'm looking forward to his stand-up special on what will be HBO Max in the coming months, because it was Max, it was HBO, and then it was HBO Max, then it was Max, and now HBO Max. I can't keep up. I just can't. A lot of changes, but what
the streaming provider formerly known as Max.
But what we don't have to worry about in the change department is Sasha Barkov. He's a stable force for these Panthers. I'm not too concerned, and I'm not too surprised one way or the other that he's at a -4 rating right now. He still has 17 points through those 19 playoff games. So all is okay with Sasha Barkov, okay?
And by the way, if you're one of those Oilers fans who are worried that Barkov has not shown up yet, well, I got some bad news for you, because neither is Matthew Tkachuk. 2 assists and a +1, but only 2 assists so far through 3 games of the Stanley Cup Final. One of them was just that little push-ahead pass that was really a 2-on-0 that became a breakaway. We listed him each as our number 2 best player in this series and the best player for the Florida Panthers. Obviously, he is playing with some sort of injury, but so was Leon Draisaitl last year. It's not a time where you're making excuses. And Matthew Tkachuk, I'm sure, is not making excuses either. He hasn't woken up yet to this point. But looking at the Edmonton side of things, the surprise, and not in a good way, we hailed this whole postseason their depth guys. Yep. It wasn't just McDavid and Draisaitl. And you look down this list, Matthias Ekholm, who came back in the conference final, 2 points so far in the final. Evander Kane, 1 point in the final. John Klingberg, who was a real unsung hero those first 3 rounds, -4 through 3 games of the Stanley Cup Final. And I thought the best under-the-radar guy for Edmonton this whole playoffs, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 0 points. Just as many as Sasha Barkov, but not in a good way. 0 points and a -2. Where has the depth gone?
Every name that we've listed, every single name that you've said, that I've said here in this second segment of this episode, no one has been as disappointing as Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Yeah. Because coming into this Stanley Cup Final, he had such a huge performance in the Western Conference Final. He was such a big reason why they're in this Stanley Cup Final for the second straight year. His disappearance through the first 3 games, for me, is the biggest disappointment. If the Oilers want to win game 4 and make this a series, he needs to step up. He absolutely needs to step up, because him having 0 points through 3 games, unacceptable. He's got to match the moment. If Nate Schmidt can match the moment, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins most certainly can match the moment. So match the moment. dig deep and figure it out. Want it. How badly do you want it? Because Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, the auxiliary guys around Draisaitl and around McDavid, put Evander Kane in that same conversation. They've got to produce as well. Yeah. It's got to be more than just those two guys, and it starts with some of those second-tier stars on the Oilers.
And that's a good point at the end there, because there's not a lot of second-tier stars, really, when you think about it. It's McDavid and Draisaitl, and then the next biggest group is Corey Perry, Evander Kane, Adam Henrique, Sperry Kapanen, Trent Frederick, like a lot of also rans and never was, has-beens and never was. And in the middle, there's Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who's a legit middle six, very impactful player, and was in this postseason. He was kind of that bridge. He took a lot of the attention off McDavid and Draisaitl in the power play. He was playing so well, has not shown up at all in this Stanley Cup final. And the same again for Evander Kane and John Klingberg and Adam Henrique and all these guys that were carrying some of the weight on the way to the Cup final have not done that so far. The Oilers are going to need those guys to get back in this series and hopefully for them get revenge on the Florida Panthers and win the Stanley Cup for the first time since 1990. We do have something that might be in the Oilers' favor for Game 4. We will give you that, and we'll give you our predictions coming up next on Locked On NHL Game Night. Back here on Locked On NHL Game Night, a reminder, like and subscribe. YouTube, find us there. Find us wherever you find your podcasts as well. We have skyrocketed this channel on Locked On NHL, and thanks you.
Skyrocket in flight. Afternoon delight.
Love an afternoon game of the Stanley Cup Final at some point. I don't think we're ever going to get that again.
Fans would be so upset.
Yeah, just call me an old man.
Maybe if you put old Doc on the call.
That would be something, man. A little NBC Saturday afternoon. The great Doc Emmerich, man. Take me back. Take me back. This is going to be a night game, by the way. Thursday night, Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final. It's either a 3-1 series lead for Florida, or we are all even for a best of 3 going back to Edmonton. Oh, man, so much on the line in this Game 4. Before we get into your prediction, Tyler, I just want to throw this out there. Looking back at the Toronto series, which is the toughest one that Florida has played in this whole 2025 Stanley Cup playoff, they dominated Game 5 in Toronto after winning 2 in Florida to take a 3-2 series lead, and they just worked Toronto in Game 5, and everyone was like, okay, this is over. They're going back down to Sunrise. This is going to be it. And they played maybe their worst game of the postseason, and they lose 2-0. It's a big Leaf victory. Of course, we know what happens next. They go back to Toronto and kick their ass again. But they really laid an egg in that Game 6 on home ice. We know they're a better team on the road than they are even at home, and they're a pretty dang good team wherever they play. Does that get into the minds of maybe the Oilers even more so than the Panthers of like, hey, we can take these guys on their home ice. We just need to play it, all the cliches, one shift, one period at a time.
I think regardless of what we've seen from the Panthers previously in these playoffs, Edmonton can't be thinking about that. It's got to be on them. You've got to look inside your circle before looking outside your circle. Look in the mirror, figure out the problems that you caused in Game 3, and then rebound. Matthias Ekholm said after practice Tuesday, quote, that's their brand, but we're a focused group. We lost a little focus in Game 3, but we know what to do.
Does Chris Knobloch need an assistant, by the way? Can we get your resume out there?
Well, hey, if he wants if he wants to knock on my door, he's more than welcome to.
Okay, we'll let him know.
My youth baseball team that I coach, we're now 0-4 this season. Lost our doubleheader last night.
Just getting started, man.
I've got a young, talented squad. It's 18U. Most of my kids are 16. Last night, playing one of the best teams in the league. Most of those guys, 18. We competed so hard. We were down 6-1, top half of the last inning. We score 9 runs. Bat through the lineup. Go through the order. We take a 10-6 lead, and it takes a blown call at first base for the other team to come back and win in the bottom half. But I love the fight from my team. Now, for Edmonton, if we're comparing baseball to hockey
do
and
it.
the 18U Bolts to the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton can't afford to fall down early like my team did last night, but they need to show the fight that my team showed. Regardless of win or loss for my team, the Oilers need to win game 4 here. They need to figure out how to win, and they can win. We saw that in game 1. Florida's not a perfect team. I don't see Florida playing as well as they did in game 3, and I also don't see Edmonton playing as bad as they played in game 3. So with that in mind, getting to the prediction, I don't see 21 penalties and 85 penalty minutes from Edmonton. They're focused on what they do best now after losing themselves a little bit in game 3. I see Edmonton winning by 2 or 3 goals here in game 4.
Wow.
Keep in mind, Cam, my predictions during these playoffs have been terrible. It shocks me that as many people in our numbers keep going up, even though my predictions keep getting worse and worse. Okay?
It's truly incredible.
Thanks to all of you for looking past my terrible predictions and saying, okay, despite not predicting well, he still kind of knows a little bit about hockey.
Well, I picked the Panthers in 7 in this series. And you'll remember I did it in kind of an unorthodox way. I said they're going to have a chance to win the Stanley Cup at home in game 6.
That's
they're
right.
Not going to do it. They're going to go back to Edmonton and do it. Because that is just the kind of black magic I expect from the Panthers at this point. And I usually go against you to even this thing out because, you know,
Smart.
You've been on such a cold streak that I'm like, that's my best bet here. But I'm also going to pick the Oilers, man. I don't.
Wow.
I don't have them in the series, and that is not indicative of my rooting interest, but I don't have them winning the series. I just think you're going to get enough from them tonight. I think tomorrow night. You're going to get enough nuclear play from McDavid and Draisaitl. I think you need more from that depth. I'm not even saying you get that in this game, but I think it's going to be a tight one. I think they're going to win a tight 3-2 kind of game. Evan Bouchard gets back in the series after I think he elected to not play in game 3. I think he just sat himself out. At least that's what I saw. So I'll take the Oilers as well. And mainly that's because I want a 2-2 series. I think that's what we all want here.
We want more hockey. Want more hockey.
Man. I want this to go the full 7, baby. I need that. But let us know your prediction down in the comments below. Of course, wish Tyler a happy birthday down there. Give us your prediction in game 4. Give us your prediction for the series. Which one of us will be right? Let us know in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping the video after every game and the days in between, like right now. Appreciate you guys making this part of your daily routine, hearing from the guys like us and the local experts. I'm Kim Stewart. That's Tyler Feldman. We will see you tomorrow night after game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final. Eddie and Shukri will have it for you on Locked On NHL Game Night.